Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Welcome back to another video. We're going to jump into the main content in just a moment, but first, two quick housekeeping points. Number one, on December 20th, I am going to be on the Lou Hustles YouTube channel from 9 p.m. to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is for a reseller holiday slash Christmas party where we're going to talk about reselling and all sorts of fun kind of light topic-y type things. If you don't know Lou, and I actually don't know him personally, but I know Marcy Kennedy, who's a strong supporter of this channel, and she's going to be on there as well. It's going to be like a round table with a bunch of other resellers. This is Lou's channel. If you just want to go check it out and subscribe, and come over there about 9 o'clock, stop by, say hello. Sounds like it's going to be a fun time, so I'm looking forward to that. Number two, and this is the last thing before we jump into today's content, is look at my subscriber count here, 1,947. My goal is to get to 2,000 by the end of this year. There's still enough time to do it. 11 more days in the year. So to get there, I'm going to need your help. You know, my initial goal was 1,000 when I started this channel a year ago, and the 2,000 goal just kind of evolved recently as I saw that it was within reach. So it just kind of be a symbolic thing to get double of what my initial goal was, which would be cool. So if you could help me out with that, I would appreciate it. Ask some friends, family to subscribe. Talk about it maybe on social media. Let people know on Instagram and Facebook to give a follow. If you like the channel and want to continue to see it grow, I would really appreciate that. Tag me, whatever you need to do. Really appreciate it. It won't take too long to get there. As long as everyone helps out, and I appreciate those who already have, people like Esme and Marcy. Thank you very much, and others. I can't mention everybody, but thank you all who have helped out. So with that being said, let's jump into the content of today's video, which is to talk about taxes and specifically tax deductions. Now you may be wondering, why am I talking about this now at the end of December when taxes aren't due until April? Well, really, taxes, it really is a topic you should be thinking of and monitoring in terms of your accounting all year long. But this is really the time where you really want to start making sure you get everything together, because you don't want to wait until the last minute to start trying to figure out all the different possible deductions that you can make. Because once you start trying to cram everything in at the last moment, it becomes overwhelming and it becomes very stressful, especially when you're trying to manage your regular business and your regular life and possibly another job that you have going on at the same time as your reselling business. So it's real important to try to get a jump on these things early. I have several videos in my playlist section. Actually, you can see it right here. I have one on, if we scroll down, you'll see there's one on bookkeeping and taxes, and I have 7 different videos in there, so go by and check those out, if you want some tutorials about that. But we're specifically going to talk today about deductions, and the reason why is because deductions are really crucial in terms of maintaining a strong degree of profitability in your business, because you really do get hit with so many different forms of overhead that you have for your business. Even if you don't have a regular, traditional brick and mortar store and you're just working from home, there still is a ton of overhead that you have. In addition to that, if you just think about what the tax rate is for what you get hit on, it's pretty hefty. I mean, last year is approximately, you're starting off at about 50%. In terms of your tax rate if you're self-employed, and so that's a lot of money to go out the door, and that's why the deductions are so crucial to kind of soften the blow of that tax burden that you have. And so you want to make sure that all the taxes that you're taking are legal and they're legitimate. So make sure you are consulting with an accountant and or an attorney. I definitely suggest having an accountant. I will tell you, it was the smartest move that I made last year was to get an accountant. I mean, what a time saver and what a stress off my back. I hated doing my taxes every single year, and it really does start to get complicated when you have a business and you really need to know how to do it properly. And so personally, my suggestion is to get an accountant. Ask around, word of mouth in your area. Make sure you're dealing with someone who's legitimate and on the up and up. That's what I did, and I could not have been happier. So let's go into the different types of deductions that you can take for your business, and I'm really going to break it down into 3 different areas here, and I'm just going to expand the screen out here. So we're going to go over what I would call the basics, the basic type of deductions that you want to take, and then specific deductions that are related to your home business, and then a few different odds and ends that are kind of miscellaneous. Now, this video is meant to be on the long side. You don't have to watch this all at once. It's meant to be a reference video, so if you need to pause it at a certain point or come back to it at a later time, that's totally fine. That's pretty much what it's designed to do. If you want to watch it all in one setting, I mean, that's totally fine as well. I'll try to get through it as efficiently as possible, but we're going to break it down to these 3 sections here. So let's go here through the basics, and we'll just kind of take them one by one. Now, right here, you want to make sure you are deducting your PayPal fees. The PayPal fees are going to be 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. Now, you could go into your PayPal account, and at the end of the year, in fact, anytime during the year, you could run reports. It allows you to run reports that tell you how much your total fees were for the year. And I'm going to just mention this as an aside for people who are really, really new and really green into reselling, because what some people do, I don't know the exact percentage, but there are people that do this, is they literally forget to take these types of deductions. So let's say you have an item, and we'll make it real basic, that's sold for $100, and you had eBay take out 10%, and you had PayPal take out 2.9%. So let's just say, and then you factor in shipping, $10 shipping. So let's just say you totally made about $70 profit on that item once you take out all, and including cost of goods and that sort of thing. Let's say it wasn't something that was that expensive to source. You only want to pay the taxes on the $70. You do not pay the taxes on the 100. Let me repeat that again if you're completely brand new at all of this. You do not want to pay the taxes on the 100. You're only paying taxes on what you profited. Okay, so this is where the deductions come in, and this is essential, because if you do that, you are going to get crushed if you are not taking these deductions. It's really, you're not going to be able to sustain the business if you break the numbers down. So PayPal fees, something you definitely should be keeping track of. And PayPal makes it easy at the end of the year for you to just gather all that information. I show in my bookkeeping videos how I just automatically keep track of that through Excel with different collections that I monitor over the years. So there's ways you could do it there too, but you could easily run it through PayPal. Now, another thing to keep track of in your cost log is your selling fees, and these are ones that are specific to whatever platform you are selling on. Now, eBay, will just send you, for example, their statement, once a month, and you just basically have to pay that percentage, and I just list that as eBay fees, and that's going to account for anything that you wind up sending FedEx. USPS is something you're going to have to account for separately. Any listing fees that you might have are going to be thrown in there. Insertion fees, store fees if you have an eBay store, all that type of stuff. That's all, final value fees is what I mean by listing fees. So, if you're doing Amazon, FBA, there's lots of charges associated with that, including, your maybe a monthly fee that you have to pay, or long-term storage fees. All those sorts of things you want to make sure you account for as well. If you're on Poshmark or Mercari, there's going to be fees associated with that. Poshmark, I believe, is a flat 20% fee. So, you just want to make sure you are accounting for that and deducting that at the end of the year, that grand total. And you should be accounting these things line by line in a summary sheet. So if you ever get audited, what you don't want to do is just take all the fees and just lump them all together and say, here's the total for all my deductions. You will have a total at one point, but make them line item deductions. So you just basically show what each deduction is for, and then your accountant could just add them all together at the end. Another one you want to keep track of are your USPS shipping fees. So that's definitely something important, because that's not going to, if you're selling on eBay, for example, that's not going to be accounted for in the regular eBay fees that you pay each month. Now, if you're paying those, as most people are, through PayPal, it's easily tracked, because PayPal, when you do a PayPal report, you could break it down and sort it based on the people who you are making payments to, or the organizations that you are making payments to. But USPS shipping fees, you definitely, now this is, by the way, when I say USPS shipping fees, this assumes that you are absorbing the cost of the shipping. If the customer is paying the shipping, then as a separate charge, then you cannot deduct that. So you are deducting if you are paying the cost of the shipping. And this is one of the reasons why I like doing free shipping. I'm going to do a separate video on that. But if you pay for the shipping, and you're really working the shipping into the cost of goods in reality, but it doesn't show up that way when you show the sale that you made. The sale, to anyone who's auditing it, would look like it's free shipping and you're covering the cost. So the advantage of doing that is that, depending on how high your shipping fees are, it could get to such an amount that it could literally lower you into a different tax bracket. Now, keep in mind that I am not an accountant, and there can be some things that I say on here that might not technically be accurate. That's entirely possible. It's not my profession, so again, make sure that you have an accountant that you could bounce things off of, and don't take everything that I say as gospel. I mean, these are just really guides, and it's based on my experience and what I know in terms of the current state of the situation. So let's go into some other areas here. Obviously, your cost of goods, your inventory, you're going to need to keep track of. And I should mention, because I didn't mention this in some other videos where I have shown me keeping track of my expenses, that I keep my cost of goods accounted for separately. And the reason for that is that I buy things in such large bulk that literally the cost of some of the items that I purchase is a fraction of a penny. So I don't feel like putting that into all of my spreadsheets where I monitor how much money I'm making per collection. I just take the total profit that I make from it, and then I subtract the overall cost of goods from that to determine what my net revenue is for that particular collection that I purchased. So, but you do have to keep track of it somewhere, and I keep track of that in a separate costs spreadsheet. I show this in my accounting videos. So, but you do have to keep track of it somewhere, what your cost of goods are. Absolutely, that's a deduction. Supplies. Now, there's lots of places to get free supplies, so you you're obviously not going to deduct the things that you didn't spend money for, but you definitely want to deduct if you are paying for bubble wrap, or like, for example, I mean, here's this giant thing of bubble wrap I have right next to me right here. Okay, that cost is getting deducted. Sorry for that noise. Cost of air pillows, the cost of packing tape, anything that is a supply for your business, you definitely should be deducting. If you invested in a new webcam or a new laptop, or whatever it is, if it's something that is business related, you get to deduct it. Now, if it's something that you are using not only for your business but for something else, then what you have to do is you have to basically tell your accountant, or if you don't use an accountant, you've got to figure out how to do this yourself, but you basically have to figure out what the percentage is that you're using that particular service or item for your business versus something else. So if you're using the laptop 90% for your business and 10% for something else, then that 90% is the part that winds up getting deducted. So that's all something that gets figured out you know, by accounts. I don't technically know how to do all that type of stuff, but that's, again, like I said, why I have an accountant. But all types of supplies, no matter what they're for your business, you can deduct. Now, one thing I should mention, because I do this sometimes, is I use, I've mentioned this before, I like to use sometimes my Amazon points that I get, because I have an Amazon credit card, and what I'll do is, for example, if I have like $50 worth of Amazon points, I will deduct, from that to get some shipping fees. But it's not technically cash, it's bonus money that they're giving you, and it's not something that's really tax deductible. So if you're using that, you got to be careful there. But if you're spending your own cash where you really have a charge, because what happens when you use the cashback bonus at the end of that, it literally gives you, there's no charge. It says $0. So you can't deduct what essentially would look to the IRS like fake money. So you got to be careful about that. Next thing is food and drink while sourcing. I call this the basics, but a lot of people forget this. When you're out there sourcing, if you're out there all day like I am sometimes on the weekend, and you're getting hungry and you need to stop off and get something to eat to keep you going so you could think properly for your business, or it's the summertime, it's hot, you're getting thirsty, you need to keep going, you need to stay hydrated, all of that stuff is tax deductible. You need to save the receipts, put them in a separate envelope or something, or you could scan them in if you use a receipt scanner, and deduct all of that over the course of the year. If I'm at the flea market and I'm thirsty and I get a drink, or something like that, all that stuff again is deductible. So keep that stuff in mind. You could deduct that stuff. If you're doing any advertising or promos for your business, all of that stuff is tax deductible. So that's something also to keep in mind. And any gifts that you're doing that are business related. So for example, if you follow me on Instagram, recently I showed an example of how I've given some people who help me out with my business some gifts. For example, the postal worker that does so many of the pickups at my home business, we gave a $50 gift card to. Or someone locally in the area who's really helped me out in terms of locating some just absolutely killer scores this year. For collections, really just without this person, I mean, I would not have anywhere close to the amount of stuff that I have. So it's really helped me make a lot of money this year, and so I wanted to give back some of that. So I gave that person a $100 gift card for helping me out. So all that stuff is tax deductible. Promos, so if you're doing something like running a Facebook group or a YouTube channel and you want to do a giveaway, like Trish, if you're watching this, I give you a box cutter, not a box cutter, but a box trimmer, box resizer, or I gave away a light kit to Dana Slate earlier this year. Anything like that. That was all through my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. All that stuff is tax deductible if you're doing anything like that. So just keep that in mind. And gas mileage. I have a whole video on doing tracking of gas mileage, but that's important. I actually just looked at it. This year, and there's just a little bit left in it, I don't think too much is going to be added to it, but what's going to basically amount to is I drove 4,000 miles this year with my reselling business. 4,000 miles. I mean, that's a lot, and you don't realize that until you start tracking that and adding that stuff up. And why that's so important, that is one of the best deductions that you can take, because this year the deduction is 54.5 cents per mile. So calculate that out for 4,000 miles. It's a major deduction. I really suggest doing that as opposed to just keeping track of your gas, because if you're using your vehicle for something else like I do to drive to my regular job, it becomes way too difficult to track what percentage you're using your gas money for driving to your regular job or to the grocery store, which I'll do as well, versus driving out to garage sales and estate sales. So what I suggest, unless you have a company car in which you're just using it for purely business purposes, make sure you're keeping track of the miles for where you are going for different aspects of your business. So those are the basics. And speaking of business, let's get into your home business. I really recommend, if you're really serious about reselling and you really want to make this a legitimate thing for yourself, form an LLC. And it's going to enable you to take a lot of home business deductions. It's going to make you really a legitimate entity in the eyes of the law, and it's going to prevent all sorts of problems if you start trying to take deductions related to it without being an LLC. It just puts you under less scrutiny. And so I've had my LLC going for a while, and a lot of things that I take in terms of deductions regarding it are things you may not think are things that you would take deductions for. So for example, your phone, home and cell, and internet. You need your internet to be running your reselling business. Bottom line, your cell phone, absolutely crucial. Now, this gets into the percentage part. You may have a cell phone that's 100% dedicated to work. If so, everything that's a charge related to that you could take off. If you use it 50% for reselling and 50% for calling your mom and your dad and your brother and your friends, well, then you're going to take 50% in terms of that total bill that you're paying for your cell phone as a deduction. So, that's basically how it works. Home line as well. It all depends how much you're using that stuff, for your reselling business. But that all, home and internet typically get intermingled together. So you just got to, parse that out when you're talking with your accountant. Again, highly suggest getting an accountant. Believe it or not, snow plowing, if you live in the East Coast, on the East Coast like I do, and snow plowing is an issue like here in central New York, and you're paying for that, that is deductible because, for example, you need your driveway plowed. This is the reasoning why you could deduct, is you need your driveway plowed so that you could go out and you could go sourcing, or you could go take items to the post office and drop them off. If not, it could potentially significantly affect your business. So that's why things like that are tax deductible. Lawn service, that is also something considered tax deductible, is because you need to, you want to have a sightly place. You want even though you might not have a sign out there that says you have a home business inside of it, technically, legally, you are allowed to take lawn service bills off of your taxes in terms of a deduction. It's considered just a standard part of what you have to do for upkeep for your landscaping for a home and a business. Electricity, you obviously need electricity to run your business. I'm using electricity right now as I'm filming this video. So electricity obviously is crucial. It helps power your internet. You need it to charge your cell phone, so your electric bill is also tax deductible. So you're going to make sure you give that information to your accountant. Room dimensions, that's also very important to make sure you keep track of. So right here, this entire room is all dedicated to my reselling business. So all the square footage from this, I get to deduct. Now, I do use part of my garage for my reselling business as well, and other rooms in the house. So basically, I take the dimensions of those rooms. There's a place on your tax form where you can enter that information in, and I just have my accountant do it. And if it's a room that I'm not using 100% for my reselling business, then you just try to factor in what percentage of it you are using, and that percentage is what becomes tax deductible, because you're using part of your home for business purposes. That is tax deductible. This is the advantage of having a home business. It really is great in terms of getting all these types of deductions. And to make sure that you have a home that where you could run your business and be safe, and you've got to make sure that you have insurance, so that if anything happens in terms of any damage, like a flood or something like that, you could get that repaired so you could get your business back up and running, because that would affect it. For example, if you had a flood in your basement while you're trying to run your business. So you've got to have home insurance, and home insurance is deductible. Now, if you live in Florida or something like that and you have flood insurance on top of that, those types of things are going to be things you could deduct. Keep in mind, this list I'm giving you is not meant to be exhaustive. It's meant to give you ideas and examples. So based on this, Based on the region of the country where you're living, you may have a different type of insurance you have to pay for, and as a result of that, that could be something you wind up deducting. I'd love to hear other ideas of things that I don't put on here that you have found are tax deductible, and definitely could use that as a resource as well for other people who come to this video and are checking into this sort of thing. Another thing, any home repairs that you have to do, those are also tax deductible under the same logic that I've provided earlier. The assumption is if those particular things that need to be repaired are not repaired, that it would impact and impede your business, and so it is important that that is also something that is deducted in your taxes. Some odds and ends as well. Grading fees. Now this, what I mean by that is if you are into collectibles and you are paying to get things graded, like comic books or sports cards or magazines or sports memorabilia, those fees could really add up, and so you want to make sure that those are deducted as well. If you are going to conventions, as you have seen me do, comic book conventions, or let's say you're going to an antique festival and you have to pay an entry fee to get in, and you're doing sourcing there, save that receipt, and or make sure you get a receipt, and that is something that could add up over the course of the year, and those entry fees are all tax deductible. Okay, you need to get in there to do your job. You had to pay the fee to get in. That's the reason. Your accounting fees, those are tax deductible as well. So if you're paying for any software like TurboTax, or just paying for the services of your accountant, all that winds up getting tax deductible. Now you may not be able to deduct it until the next year. It depends on when you get billed. I actually don't get billed until the next year. Actually, I don't actually get billed until like around May, but that's why it gets deducted in the next year. So if you're running a website related to your business, so you want to make sure you're deducting domain fees, you're deducting any programs that you are using to run your website, like a website builder, anything like that, registration fees. You want to make sure you deduct those sorts of things. So I have those types of fees related to my medical website, medfriendly.com. I also actually, I have not mentioned this before, but I actually do have primetimetreasure.com. If you go to it, you're not going to see anything, because what I did was I just made sure I registered the name, because it's something I'd like to try to develop one day in the future. It will be a future long-term goal of mine to have that up and going. But I wanted to make sure I registered that name ahead of time so no one else went in and grabbed it. And I would highly suggest you do that as well. If you're starting out, you're brand new, you came up with a cool, neat name, but right now you don't plan on having a website yet for it, but you're thinking of doing one down the road. If you think that's even remotely a possibility, go out. The service I use is Namecheap. It's very, very good, legitimate service where you could secure the name of a website for like $10 for the whole year, and you're set. So and you could set it up for automatic renewal. So I highly, highly suggest that, because what you don't want to have happen is that you decide, hey, I want to start to run my website 3 years after you started your reselling business, and now the name is taken. And now if you want to try to get it back from somebody, you got to pay a real hefty fee, or you may not even be able to get it back, and you've got to kind of come up with some name for your website that isn't the ideal one that you want. So that's just kind of an aside little tip there for you. And that is about it for that little video presentation. I hope that you found this helpful. Any comments, questions, suggestions, you may even have a correction to something that I said, whatever. Leave it down below in the comment section. I love seeing what all of you have to say. Make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed it, bookmark it for future reference, pass it on to other people. I think your goal should be, by the way, that you try to get in with an accountant by mid-February, end of February at the latest. Set that as your goal so that you don't get everything crammed in at the last moment in April. Really try to have that, get that done towards the beginning of the year so you don't have to worry about it. Also, check out my man Rockstar Flipper. Check out his channel. He has got a ton of awesome videos on accounting and bookkeeping and taxes. It's actually based on his recommendation that I went out last year and got an accountant. And again, I tell you again, it was the best move I ever made. So definitely would suggest that. Why does this pop up every once in a while? Anyway, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Come to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. We're nearing 5,000 members there. So it's a great group. If you're not a member, come on by. The link is down in the description section. And one last thing, I've said this before to come follow me on Instagram at prime_time_treasure, but I'm really, as I mentioned in my last video, and if you follow me there on Instagram, you've noticed that I'm really expanding my use of it. I'm making a lot of use of the stories section. So if you want to see some of the different things that I'm doing throughout the day and giving a little peek into my personal life, I'm doing that a little bit more. And actually, that reminds me of one other thing I want to mention, and this is based on something Jersey said. So if you stuck with me this far, thanks a lot. I'll know you watched the entire video. But one of the things Jersey said is he likes to follow me, and he likes to kind of see what I'm up to, and he liked that I changed my picture there. He put a comment down below and got out of the suit and tie and just had a more casual look. And one of the things that he was looking for, hopefully down the road, is me kind of opening up a little bit more about some personal stuff that I'm into, and some things that aren't exactly 100% always related to reselling. So I might do kind of like a lighter side video sometime before the end of the year, where I just kind of talk about some kind of other hobbies, interests, things of mine. So if you have any questions that you want to answer, kind of kind of anything, kind of like on a personal level, let me know. I'll be happy to answer those types of things. So I'll just kind of be monitoring the comment section. If there's any questions along those lines, drop them in, and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can during a video. By the end of the year, we'll do kind of like a lighter side one. At least I'm thinking of doing that. So look forward to seeing you at Lou Hustles if you want to stop on by there, and if not, I'll see you at the next video, everyone. Take care. Thanks for watching.